Hey guys, I'm going to pick up here with lesson 2 on canals and railroads. Remember, this is from your social studies book. You don't have it in front of you. There is no assignment that is linked to this. I'm solely just doing this for you so that you have the info you need based on all the history and information on the Erie Canal. I'm also going to be posting a video today that's a pretty cool mini documentary on the Erie Canal, and it was featured on CBS a while ago, and it's just pretty neat. Again, there's no assignment that's going to go with that either. It's just going to be, I recommend and would really suggest you watching it to its fullest because it's good information. Okay? All right, so canals and railroads. I'm just going to continue with the lesson, stop here and there, and that's it. All right? Building the Erie Canal. As governor of New York, DeWitt Clinton began building the Erie Canal, a canal all the way from Lake Erie to the Hudson River. So if you look here in our books, okay, here is the Lake Erie part. It goes all the way across and meets up with the Hudson River. This is still true today, okay? This didn't exist. It was man-made. They dug it by hand. Some people made fun of the canal by calling it Clinton's Ditch. They did not believe such a long canal would ever be finished. Work on the Erie Canal began on July 4th, 1817 in Rome. Thousands of workers began digging their way across New York. Engineers had to solve many problems to keep the work moving. In some places, they had to use gunpowder to blast through solid rock. While building the section of canal west of Syracuse, workers dug through swamps full of mosquitoes and snakes. They built machines to remove trees and tree stumps from the canal's path. An engineer named Canvas White invented a new cement that hardened when it was underwater. The most difficult problem was that New York State is not flat. Lake Erie is more than 500 feet higher in elevation than the Hudson River, but the water in the canal has to be level. To solve this problem, engineers built locks. Now, it's not like a lock and key. I'll show you a diagram in the book in a second of what this is, okay? A lock is a section of the canal that's closed off so water can be removed or added. And the locks worked like water-filled elevators to move the boats higher or lower. The diagram on the next page will show you how it works. Okay, so before I continue reading, I'm actually going to show you this diagram because it's really helpful. Because when I first learned about this long ago, I was like, a lock system? I don't understand. It's not like a lock and key. It's not, but you could almost think of it in like the way that it locked the boat in, all right? So here's how it would work, okay? A boat is traveling on the water here, okay? And it needs to continue moving on the canal, except the elevation changes. And if you were in a car, you would just be going downhill, right? But a boat, the canal can't work that way. Okay, so what would happen is it would come to a lock. These were called locks. It's like two big garage doors, okay? And this is a big compartment that would hold water. So if you needed to go down in elevation, they would make sure this compartment was filled with water before the boat got any further than here. So the boat's like at a stop sign. Think of it that way, right? The water is filled in the compartment. They open up these doors so the boat can just go on in, okay? Now I'm going to jump to this diagram. It's just kind of going in sequence. So now the boat is in the compartment. It's in the lock, okay? They close the door behind it, and they keep this door closed also. There's two doors, okay? Both are closed when the boat is in the lock. Now, since the boat wants to go down, what they do is through another like little trap door down here, they open the little trap door. And when they do that, all the water here starts flowing out through the door. And when the water starts flowing out, the boat naturally is going to go down with the water, right? It's not really fast, so it's like whoosh. It's a slow process, okay? It goes down, and now then they close the little trap door. Now we jump down to this picture, right? And look at the water is now at the same elevation as the other part of the canal is. So then when the water levels meet up, they then open up this door and the boat can leave. Okay? It's really cool. And it works in the opposite way also. If we go backwards and the boat wanted to go up, if the boat needed to travel up in elevation, where again, if you're in a car, you would literally just be like driving uphill. Same thing. This door stays closed. The boat would come on in. They close the door behind it. And then they pump water into the lock. And when they pump the water in, the boat rises with the water. And then they're able to open that door and the boat travels out. So it works both ways, going up in elevation or down in elevation. It's a super cool system. We used to take field trips to a lock because they're not far from here. They still operate. And it's just neat to watch. You can YouTube the videos. There's a bunch of them of looking at type in Erie Canal lock system. And there's a bunch of them that will show you how it works. The video I'm going to post doesn't really show how a lock works, but it shows little snippets of them. Okay. Wetting of the waters. By October 1825, the Erie Canal was finished. The canal was 40 feet wide, 4 feet deep, and 363 miles long. DeWitt Clinton and other New York leaders climbed aboard a canal boat called the Seneca Chief in Buffalo. The boat started east, and the 7-day trip to Albany was one long celebration. At towns along the canal, the Seneca Chief was greeted with parades and parties. The Erie Canal celebration continued in New York City. In a ceremony called the Wetting of the Waters, DeWitt Clinton poured a barrel of water from Lake Erie into the Atlantic Ocean. He did this to show that the waters of Lake Erie and the Atlantic Ocean were now linked. Why was this link so important? Well, before the Erie Canal opened, it cost about $100 to transport a ton, or 2,000 pounds, of goods from Buffalo to New York City. Using the Erie Canal, that same shipment cost less than $10. This led to much more trade between different parts of New York. The canal also made trade with the Midwest easier. In fact, New York City soon became the busiest port in the United States. Business boomed along the canal as well. Canal boats traveled west filled with tools, furniture, and clothing. Boats then turned around and traveled east loaded with wheat, beef, and lumber. With so much trading going on, people were eager to move to towns along the canal. The graph on page 241 shows the fast growth of 3 cities on the Erie Canal. I'm just going to keep going on. This lesson ends with the last part called The Rise of Railroads. The Erie Canal was so successful that it soon had a problem some roads have today: traffic. New York leaders decided to make the canal wider so more boats could use it at the same time. New canals were also built to connect towns all over the state back to the Erie Canal. Canals were very important in New York, but only for a short time. Soon, there was a much faster way to travel and move goods. This was the railroad. The first railroad tracks in New York were built from Albany to Schenectady. In the summer of 1831, people gathered to watch New York's first train travel along these tracks. The train had a steam-powered locomotive, like your steam-powered steamboat, Kurt, or engine car named the DeWitt Clinton. People wondered how quickly the DeWitt Clinton could get from Albany to Schenectady. The trip was performed by the locomotive in 46 minutes, reported an Albany newspaper. It took canal boats several hours to make this trip. In addition to being faster than canal boats, trains could carry much larger loads. One powerful locomotive could pull many train cars filled with tons of goods. Also, railroads could be used year-round. This wasn't true for canals. Canals froze during the cold winter months. When temperatures dropped quickly, canal boats could actually get trapped in the ice. The period from 1825 to 1850 is sometimes called the Canal Age. Railroads brought the Canal Age to an end. And as the map on page 244 shows, railroad companies quickly built tracks all over New York. This little map shows, you can see all those red lines. Those are all the railroad tracks that were built at that time in 1860. By 1850, travelers could ride a train from Albany to Buffalo in about 25 hours. Takes much less today, even on today's trains, but still, that was huge back then. So, that's lesson 2. Please feel free to watch the Erie Canal video that I'm going to post. It has great information, and I highly recommend it. No assignment is attached to it, but, it's social studies. We would be doing it if we were in school. It might be good to give it a view. See you later.